I never thought much about Stellan until the night he called me at 11:47, asking if I knew how to fix a garbage disposal. My cousin Rachel had married him 2 years earlier, and I'd seen him maybe a dozen times at family gatherings, where he'd nod politely and ask about my job in graphic design, before drifting back to conversations about mortgage rates and lawn care. He was handsome in that effortless way some men are, tall and lean with dark hair that fell across his forehead. But I'd trained myself not to notice those things about straight men, especially ones married to family members. So when my phone lit up with his name that Tuesday night, my first thought was that something was wrong with Rachel. His voice came through warm and a little embarrassed. "Hey Marcus, sorry to call so late. I know this is random, but our garbage disposal is making this grinding noise, and Rachel's already asleep, and I figured you might know, guy stuff. I was in bed with my laptop, halfway through a design project, and I almost laughed because I knew absolutely nothing about garbage disposals. I told him as much, and he laughed too. This easy, comfortable sound that made something in my chest shift slightly. Oh man, I don't know why I thought you would. I guess I just needed to call someone. There was something in the way he said it, something that made me stay on the line instead of politely suggesting YouTube videos and saying goodnight. We talked for 40 minutes that night. The conversation wandered from broken appliances to his job as a physical therapist to my struggles with a demanding client who wanted her entire brand identity redone for the third time. He asked questions that actually seemed to require thought, not just the surface-level stuff people ask at parties. When we finally hung up, I stared at my phone for a long moment, feeling something I couldn't quite name, like the air pressure had changed in my apartment. He called again 3 nights later. This time it was about whether he should buy Rachel a stand mixer for her birthday, or if that was too domestic and boring. I told him it depended on whether she liked baking, and he admitted he wasn't sure, which seemed like something a husband should probably know. Nice, we talked about gift giving and the weird pressure of finding the perfect present, and somehow ended up discussing our childhoods. He grew up in Vermont, the youngest of 4 boys, always trying to keep up with older brothers who played hockey and fixed cars. I told him about growing up in the suburbs with parents who supported me, but never quite understood my interest in art and design, how I'd always felt slightly adjacent to my own family, loved but not quite seen. I should have recognized what was happening, but I'm good at lying to myself. I told myself he was just friendly, that he probably called lots of people, that this was normal behavior for a married man who needed a friend. I didn't let myself think about how I started keeping my phone closer, how I'd feel a small spike of anticipation when it buzzed, how disappointed I'd be when it wasn't him. The calls became regular, 2 or 3 times a week, always late at night, always starting with some small question or excuse. Should he go back to school for a more advanced degree? Did I think his haircut made him look too young? What did I think about the Knicks' chances this season, even though neither of us really followed basketball? The questions were flimsy pretenses and we both knew it. But neither of us acknowledged what was really happening. We were building something in those late-night hours, some structure made of words and silence and the things we didn't say. I started noticing things about his voice. The way it got softer when he talked about things that mattered to him, how he'd pause before saying something vulnerable, the slight catch in his breath when he laughed at something unexpected. I memorized these details without meaning to, collecting them like precious objects I had no right to keep. 6 weeks into our strange phone friendship, Rachel invited me to dinner. It was a Saturday night, and she'd made lasagna. And I sat at their dining table feeling like an imposter, like I was infiltrating their marriage under false pretenses. Stellan kept catching my eye across the table, and I'd look away, focusing on Rachel's stories about her job at the elementary school, the difficult parent she was dealing with, her plans to redo their bathroom. He was quiet during dinner, letting her talk. And I wondered if he felt it too. The weird tension of me being there in their actual space instead of just a voice on the phone. After dinner, Rachel went to take a call from her sister, and Stellan and I ended up on their back porch with beers we didn't really want. The September air was cool, and the neighbor's motion sensor light kept flickering on and off. He stood close enough that I could smell his cologne, something clean and woody, and I took a step back, putting distance between us. "It's nice having you here," he said. "Rachel really likes you." I nodded, taking a sip of beer I didn't taste. "She's great," I said, because what else could I say? "She is," he agreed, but his voice had that quality it got on the phone sometimes, like he was saying one thing and meaning another. We stood there in silence, and I counted the seconds, wondering who would break first. Do you ever feel like you're living the life you're supposed to want instead of the life you actually want? The question came out of nowhere, and when I looked at him, his eyes were fixed on the fence line, not meeting mine. I felt my heart rate pick up. "I think everyone feels that way sometimes," I said carefully. He nodded slowly. "Yeah. Maybe." He took a drink and I watched his throat work as he swallowed. The motion sensor light clicked off, and we stood in darkness broken only by the glow from the kitchen window. "I should probably go," I said, even though Rachel hadn't come back yet. He turned to look at me then. Really look at me. And I saw something in his face that made my breath catch. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Probably." I didn't hear from him for a week after that dinner. I told myself it was better this way, that whatever was happening needed to stop before someone got hurt. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office, taking on extra projects, anything to keep my mind occupied. But I'd catch myself looking at my phone, willing it to light up with his name, hating myself for wanting something I had no right to want. When he finally called, it was 2 a.m. on a Thursday. I was awake because I was always awake lately, and I answered on the first ring. "I can't sleep," he said without preamble. "I've been lying here for 3 hours, just thinking." "About what?" I asked, even though part of me didn't want to know. "About everything," he said. "About nothing. About you." The last 2 words hung in the air between us, impossible to take back, changing everything. "Stellan," I started, but he cut me off. "I know," he said. "I know this is fucked up. I know I shouldn't be calling you at 2 a.m. I know I shouldn't be feeling what I'm feeling. But I can't help it, Marcus. I can't stop thinking about you." I sat up in bed, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it. "You're married," I said, "to my cousin." "I know," he said, and his voice cracked slightly. "I know that. Do you think I don't know that? Every time I call you, I tell myself it's the last time, that I'll just be normal and stop whatever this is. But then I hear your voice, and I just want to keep talking forever." I closed my eyes, gripping the phone. "This can't happen," I said. "We can't do this." "I know," he said again. "I know we can't. But I needed to tell you. I needed you to know that it's not just me imagining this, right? There's something here, isn't there?" I wanted to lie. I wanted to tell him he was confused, that he was projecting something onto our friendship that wasn't really there, and that he should focus on his marriage and forget about me. But I'd never been good at lying when it really mattered. "Yeah," I said quietly. "There's something here." I heard him exhale, a long, shaky breath. "Okay," he said. "Okay, what do we do?" "I don't know," I told him. "I really don't know." We didn't talk for 2 weeks after that. It was the longest 2 weeks of my life. Every day stretching out empty and strange. I avoided family events where I might see them. I let Rachel's calls go to voicemail. I felt like I was mourning something that had never actually existed, this relationship that lived only in phone calls and unspoken possibilities. Then Rachel called me on a Sunday afternoon, her voice bright and cheerful. "Marcus, hi. I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever. Are you avoiding us?" I forced a laugh. "No, just busy with work." "Oh, you know how it is." "Well, you need to take a break," she said. "Come over for brunch next Saturday. I'm making my famous French toast." I searched for an excuse and came up empty. "Sure," I said. "That sounds great." "Perfect," she said. "Oh, and Marcus. Stellan's been weird lately. Kind of distant. Maybe you could talk to him. Guy to guy. You two seem to really hit it off." The irony was so sharp it hurt. "Yeah," I said. "Sure, I can do that." That week I rehearsed what I'd say to him. I'd be casual and friendly, but distant, re-establishing appropriate boundaries. I'd make it clear that our late-night calls were over, that whatever we'd been building needed to be dismantled carefully before anyone got hurt worse than they already were. I had a whole speech planned out, reasonable and mature and final. But when I walked into their house that Saturday and saw him standing in the kitchen, something in his face made all my careful plans evaporate. He looked tired, with shadows under his eyes. And when our eyes met, I saw something raw and desperate there. Rachel hugged me and chatted about the French toast and the new coffee maker they'd bought, and I nodded and smiled and felt like I was watching the scene from outside my body. Stellan barely spoke during brunch. Rachel carried the conversation, talking about her students and a vacation they were planning to Portland and asking my opinion on whether they should get a dog. Every time I looked at Stellan, he was staring at his plate, pushing food around, his jaw tight. "Are you okay?" Rachel asked him at one point, reaching over to touch his hand. "You've barely eaten." He pulled his hand back, not obviously, but enough that I noticed. "I'm fine," he said. "Just tired. Didn't sleep well." She frowned slightly but let it go, turning back to her plans for the bathroom remodel. After brunch, Rachel announced she had to run to the store for something she'd forgotten. "I'll be back in 20 minutes, she said, grabbing her purse. "You guys can clean up, right?" She kissed Stellan's cheek and waved at me. And then she was gone and we were alone with the dishes and the terrible silence. I started clearing plates, needing something to do with my hands. He stood on the other side of the kitchen island, watching me. "We need to talk," he said finally. "I don't think that's a good idea," I said, scraping food into the trash. "Marcus, please, just look at me." I set down the plate and forced myself to meet his eyes. "This has to stop," I said. "Whatever this is, it has to stop. You have a wife. You have a life. I can't be the person who ruins that." "I'm not asking you to ruin anything," he said, moving closer. "I'm just trying to understand what's happening to me. I've never felt this way before. About anyone. And that's terrifying, but it's also the most real thing I've felt in years." I backed up until I hit the counter. "You're confused," I said. "You're having some kind of crisis and I happen to be here and available and it's easy to project feelings onto that. But it's not real, Stellan. It's not real." His face tightened. "Don't do that. Don't tell me what I'm feeling. I know this is real. I know it every time I hear your voice. I know it when I'm lying next to Rachel at night, thinking about you instead of her. I know it when I make up stupid excuses to call you because I just need to hear you talk. I know it right now, standing here looking at you and wanting to touch you so badly my hands are shaking." I looked down and saw that his hands were indeed trembling. My own heart was racing, my breath coming short. "But you don't," I said quietly. "You don't touch me. Because you made vows to my cousin. Because you're supposed to be straight. Because this would destroy people we care about." "I know," he said, and his voice broke. I know all of that. But it doesn't change how I feel. It doesn't make this go away. We heard Rachel's car in the driveway, and both froze. I grabbed the dishcloth and started wiping the counter, trying to look normal, trying to calm my breathing. Stellan moved to the other side of the kitchen. By the time Rachel came through the door with her shopping bags, we were the picture of casual normalcy, just two guys cleaning up after brunch. Nothing to see here. I left as soon as I could reasonably excuse myself. Rachel hugged me at the door and made me promise not to be a stranger. Stellan shook my hand, a formal gesture that felt absurd after everything, and I felt the slight pressure of his fingers, the warmth of his palm, and pulled away quickly. I'll see you around, I said to neither of them in particular, and walked to my car without looking back. That night, he texted me for the first time ever. Just 3 words. I'm sorry, Marcus. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Me too. Then I deleted his number from my phone. It was a symbolic gesture, since I had it memorized, but it felt like something I needed to do. Some small act of self-preservation. 3 days later, I got a call from Rachel. She was crying. I don't know what's wrong with him, she said. He won't talk to me. He barely looks at me. It's like he's gone somewhere I can't reach. Did he say something to you at brunch? Did something happen? My stomach dropped. No, I lied. Nothing happened. We barely talked. Maybe he's just stressed about work. It's not work, she said. I know him. This is something else. I think he might be depressed. I suggested therapy, gently, and she said she'd mentioned it, but he'd shut down. Will you try talking to him? She asked. Please? He respects you. Maybe he'd open up to you. The guilt was crushing. I'll try, I said, knowing I wouldn't, knowing I couldn't. I spent the next few weeks in a fog. Work suffered. I missed deadlines. My friends asked if I was okay, and I said I was fine, just tired. I started seeing a therapist myself, a woman named Dr. Chen, who had kind eyes and didn't judge when I explained the situation. So you have feelings for your cousin's husband, she said, and he has feelings for you, and you're both trying to do the right thing. I nodded. But doing the right thing feels terrible, I said. She smiled slightly. Yes, she said. It often does. That doesn't mean it's not right. October turned into November. I saw on social media that Stellan and Rachel had gone to Portland for their vacation. They posted pictures of themselves at Powell's Books, at some waterfall, eating at food trucks. They looked happy in the photos. Stellan's arm around Rachel's shoulders, both of them smiling. I told myself I was glad. I told myself this meant things were getting better for them. I told myself the ache in my chest was just indigestion. The night before Thanksgiving, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It was Stellan, calling from a new number. I should have hung up immediately. Instead, I said hello. I'm leaving her, he said without preamble. I'm leaving Rachel. I'm telling her tomorrow, before Thanksgiving dinner, because I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending. My blood went cold. No, I said. Stellan, no. You can't do that. You can't blow up your marriage because of some feelings that might not even be real. They're real, he said firmly. Marcus, I've spent the last month trying to make myself feel for her what I feel for you. I've tried so hard. But I can't. And it's not fair to her to keep living this lie. She deserves someone who loves her the way she deserves to be loved. What about what I deserve? The words came out sharper than I intended. Did you think about that? About how I'll be the person who destroyed their marriage? About how I'll lose my cousin and probably half my family? About how every time I look at you, I'll remember what it cost. There was a long silence. I didn't think about it that way, he said quietly. I just thought, if we both feel this way, we should be together. That's not how it works, I said. This isn't some romance novel where everything works out because the feelings are real. This is real life with real consequences. You have to try harder. Go to therapy. Work on your marriage. Figure out who you are without using me as the answer. Are you saying you don't want to be with me? His voice was small, hurt. I'm saying it doesn't matter what I want, I said. I'm saying we don't get to have this. Not like this. Not at this cost. Please, Stellan, please don't tell her. Not tomorrow. Not because of me. Give it more time. Get help. Just don't do this. I heard him breathing on the other end of the line. Okay, he said finally. Okay, I won't. I'll try. I'm sorry for calling. I'm sorry for all of this. Don't be sorry, I said. Softer now. Just be better. For her. For yourself. He hung up without saying goodbye. Thanksgiving was excruciating. We were all at my parents' house, the whole extended family, and Stellan and Rachel were there looking like a normal couple. He barely looked at me all day, and when he did, his eyes were full of something that made my chest tight. Rachel seemed happier, lighter, chatting with my mum about recipes and laughing at my dad's bad jokes. At one point, she pulled me aside. I don't know what you said to him, she whispered, but thank you. He's been so much better this week, more present, like he came back to me. I forced a smile and said I was glad, and excused myself to the bathroom where I splashed cold water on my face and stared at my reflection until I could breathe normally again. December passed in a blur of work and therapy sessions and long conversations with Dr. Chen about grief and sacrifice and the difference between what we want and what's right. I threw myself into a major rebranding project that required all my focus, working 14-hour days, grateful for the distraction. I didn't hear from Stellan. Rachel sent me a Christmas card with a photo of them in matching sweaters, looking happy and normal and whole. On New Year's Eve, I was alone in my apartment, halfway through a bottle of wine and a design mock-up that was due in 2 days, when someone knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, Stellan was standing there in the hallway, snow melting in his hair, his face raw and red from cold or crying or both. She knows, he said. Rachel knows. I felt the floor shift under me. What? How? I told her, he said. Tonight. I told her everything. About the calls, about my feelings, about you. I couldn't start another year lying to her. She deserves the truth. I stared at him, unable to process what he was saying. What did she say? He laughed, a broken sound. She said she already knew, that she'd known for months, that she was waiting for me to be honest with her. We talked for hours. She's hurt, but she's also relieved. She said she could feel me pulling away, and it was killing her, not knowing why. He stepped closer. She said she wants me to be happy, even if that means not being with her. She said she won't stand in the way if this is who I really am. I shook my head, backing into my apartment. That doesn't make it okay, I said. That doesn't make this not hurt her. That doesn't make us not the people who ended her marriage. I know, he said, following me inside. I know it's not okay. I know people will be hurt. But Marcus, I can't keep living a lie. And I don't think you want to either. I looked at him standing in my living room, snow melting off his jacket onto my floor, his eyes desperate and hopeful and terrified. What are you asking me? I said quietly. I'm asking if there's a chance, he said. If we can try this. If we can see what this is when we're not hiding it. I'm asking if you feel what I feel. I thought about all the reasons to say no. The family drama. The gossip. The pain we'd cause. Rachel's hurt, the judgment we'd face, the uncertainty of whether what we felt was real or just the intensity of something forbidden. I thought about all of it, every consequence and complication. And then I thought about his voice on the phone at midnight, the way he laughed at my jokes, the conversations that made me feel seen in a way I'd never felt before. I thought about the ache of the last few months, the missing him, the wanting him, the denying myself something that felt more real than anything I'd felt in years. Yeah, I said finally. I feel it. He closed the distance between us and kissed me, and it was nothing like I'd imagined and everything I'd hoped for. His hands came up to frame my face, and I gripped his jacket, pulling him closer, and it felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff at the same time. We didn't figure everything out that night. There were still months of difficult conversations ahead, therapy sessions, family gatherings where people wouldn't look at us, Rachel's grief that we'd have to witness and respect. There were still moments of doubt, times when the guilt would rise up and threaten to drown us. But there were also mornings waking up next to him, late-night conversations without the weight of secrets, the simple joy of holding hands in public, of building something real and honest and ours. 6 months later, at a family barbecue where the tension was still thick but starting to ease, Rachel pulled me aside. "I'm seeing someone," she said, "a teacher at my school. His name is David, and he makes me laugh, and he looks at me the way Stellan never really did." "I'm happy, Marcus. Really happy. And I hope you are too." I looked across the yard to where Stellan was talking with my brother, his hand resting casually on the small of my back when I walked over. The ease of it. The rightness. "Yeah," I said to Rachel. "I am." She nodded. "Good," she said. "That's good." Then she hugged me, and I hugged her back. And it wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was something like it. Something like the beginning of healing. I still think about those late-night phone calls sometimes, the way this all started with a garbage disposal that probably didn't need fixing. I think about all the small moments that built into something bigger, the courage it took to be honest, the pain that honesty caused, the life we built from the wreckage. It's not a simple story. It's not one where everyone gets a happy ending tied up neatly. But it's ours. Messy and complicated and real, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.